Here are 4 dangers of applying for the American Visa Lottery, or what's popularly known as the Green Card Lottery. As you may already know, the DV-2025 American Visa Lottery program has opened for registration, and it will remain open from between October 4th, 2023 all the way through to November 7th, 2023. Now, you want to hear this information before you send in an application. Please note that the U.S. Department of State will store all the information of entrants. So if you submit your name, your date of birth, your marital status, number of children, all this information is going to be stored by the U.S. Department of State, and the information can and will be used against you where necessary. Number 1, applying for the American Visa Lottery can lead to problems for your non-immigrant visa application to the United States in the future. So, for example, if you are in the future applying for a B2 visa or an F1 visa, you have to note that if you've ever applied for the American Visa Lottery program or the DV program, consular officers have access and can see people who have applied. And so if you've applied, let's say 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, then you obviously know that you have a higher burden to rebut the presumption of non-immigrant intent, because already applying for the visa lottery 10 times, 8 times shows that you do have a little bit of immigrant intent, if not even a lot of immigrant intent. And so if you're applying for a non-immigrant visa application, such as a B2 visitors visa or tourist visa or an F1 student visa, which requires you to return to your home country at the end of your visit, then obviously have a lot of work to do to convince a consular officer that your intent upon applying for a B2 visa or an F1 visa after applying for a diversity visa lottery program is not to remain in the United States. Number 2, inconsistent information can obviously affect you, because they will store your date of birth, your marital status, and that could be pulled up, number of children. And if you later on go say, okay, you apply for visa lottery, you state that you are married, and then 5 years later you're applying for a B2 visa, and then they happen to pull that up and see that you said you were married and now you're single. If you were married in the past, then you should be divorced, not single. So those are the types of inconsistencies that could potentially cause you problems. Number 3, now, this could potentially lead to visa bans if you apply for the visa lottery. I have seen cases where, let me use a particular instance. In this particular instance, this girl applied for a visa. I believe, I'm not sure, I don't remember which type of visa. It was a non-immigrant, immigrant visa. And apparently her father had given details to somebody to apply for the visa lottery on her behalf. Her father never followed up, and they didn't even know that the guy had actually applied for the visa lottery for her. So when she went for her U.S. visa interview, the consular officer asked her, have you ever applied for the DV lottery? And she said no. And she was given a misrepresentation and fraud bar under section 212A60I of the Immigration Nationality Act. She really didn't know, but this was what happened. So you have to be careful, because any type of information that is inconsistent with anything you've done in connection with a visa lottery can get you a denial and a permanent ban from the US. We're currently obviously working to overcome that issue, but you want to watch out. And number 4, applying for the American visa lottery can lead to a deportation or even an expedited removal. Not a technical deportation, but it can lead to what's known as an expedited removal, because it can be used as an additional evidence by the CBP officer to demonstrate that you do have immigrant intent. I have seen a record of sworn statements, when you're coming into the US through a port of entry, like an airport. Let's say you are coming in on a B2 visa or an F, or in this case, the person was coming in on a B2 visa, and the officer pulled him into secondary inspection. The customs officer at the airport pulled this person into secondary inspection, and on the person's phone, they found certain evidence that showed that he did not intend to leave the US at the end of his visit. And during the questioning that I had the privilege of reviewing, the officer asked him, have you ever applied for the American visa lottery? And then the officer went on to state that, I see from your records that you have applied, I believe, about 11 times or 7 times the diversity visa lottery program. And so this was all evidence that they needed, and they put this guy in expedited removal. So the fact that he had applied for the visa lottery several times was used as additional evidence to put him in expedited removal because it was evidence of strong immigrant intent. And so my final advice to you would be this: think carefully before you apply for the American Visa Lottery Program or the Diversity Visa Lottery Program, because the information you submit and just the fact of participating can affect you. Obviously, it doesn't affect everybody. You can apply and you will be fine. But this is just a warning. If you believe you have other means of immigrating to the US, then you may not want to apply. If you want to apply, surely go ahead and apply. But in subsequent applications, it could have an impact. And if you need more help, don't hesitate to call me, 802-780-0564. If you need help specifically about your visa lottery application, please drop all comments and questions below. My office is not answering questions about how to apply the website. We've shared all the information. If you're contacting us, then you're contacting us to retain our paid services. I wish you all the best. Follow me for more.